Yeah, we're good.
Thank you. Everyone just went so silent, so I figured we might as well get started here. Well, good morning, everyone. It is 9:31. Sorry for starting a minute late on our City Council meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And first, I'll start with the land acknowledgements. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and acknowledge the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Nakota Sioux, as well as Métis and Inuits, and now settlers from around the world. Next up is going to be a roll call, so I will start with that. Councillor Wright.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Principe.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Stevenson.
Good morning. I just want to note that I am without a jersey because it is bad luck for me to wear it.
That's fair.
In case people are wondering.
Don't anger the hockey, presence in the world. That's fair. If they lost when you wore a jersey, you shouldn't wear a jersey. That's fair. Councillor Paquette.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Tang.
Good morning, and I feel the same way. I have my jersey right upstairs, but I'm very worried about putting
That's
it on.
fair. I appreciate our thoughtfulness about this. This is important. Mayor Sohi is not going to be with us today, which is why you were all stuck with me as chair of the committee today. Yeah, he is away on city business. We have the Canadian Hydrogen Conference here in the city, and he is busy doing a lot of work at that event. So that's why he won't be with us. Councillor Hamilton.
Hello.
Hello. Councillor Rutherford.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Salvador.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Cartmel.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Rice.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Councillor Jans.
Good morning.
Good morning. But we have everyone else. So next up, I will take a motion to adopt the agenda. I'll go to Councillor Hamilton is your name. Now I remembered what I'm doing. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I will move that the April 25th, 2023 City Council meeting agenda be adopted with the following changes. The addition of bylaw 20443, 2023 property tax, that's item 8.1. The property tax and supplementary property tax bylaw update. 8.2, bylaw 2044, 8.3, 20445, 8.4, 20446, 9.4, 9.14 Heritage Valley Capital Profile adjustment, deletion of item 7.1, and there's a postponement request on item 7.3, which may or may not be amenable to.
Yeah, so my understanding is that this originally came up at ARC as maybe a suggestion based off how many of us were going to be here because of the hydrogen conference. What I've based on our roll call, we have 12 of us. So as the mover, you don't have to move that request for postponement.
I'll strike that from the motion, and if someone wants to add it or feels it would be helpful, then they can move an amendment.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Thank you. Councillor Rice has seconded. Any questions on that?
I have a question.
Councillor Rice, yes?
I do have a question. I just want to confirm with City Clerk, my understanding is correct. For the deletion 7.1, Heritage Valley Capital Profile adjustment and move to the 9.14 and becomes a private. So is that correct? That is why
thank you for the question. So technically, item 914 has been added to your agenda unofficially, and so that's the request right now. The motion on the floor is to add it. The request to delete is because we're basically moving it from a public report to a private report, so it's a two-step process.
So then what's the specific reason why this item moved from public to private?
Yeah, so I'll just defer, and again, respecting that we're in public, that would be some questions that IIS would have to respond to.
Yeah, Mr. Laughlin, can you answer that question in public about the need to have that item in private, or Ms. Padbury?
So I think this was always intended to happen in private because of the nature and the fact that there's some negotiation going on. And that then when we requested it, we didn't originally mark it private, so it came on public.
Okay, thank you. That's my question.
Thank you. Councillor Salvador?
Yeah, just really quickly on 7.3, so that was requisitioned from committee, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and sorry, the request to postpone was just looking for the reason or rationale behind that one?
So
I apologize if I missed that.
Yeah, so technically, that's not actually in the motion before you, but last week when there was a conversation at ARC, because of the hydrogen conference, we weren't sure exactly what attendance there would be here this morning, and so the agenda was already released last week when this conversation happened, so the decision was that it would be coming forward to council today to make a determination, but just for clarity, that part of the recommendation was not put on the floor at this time.
Great, thank you so much, that's all.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions. Please vote on the adoption of the agenda.
A yes for me.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the votes. That is carried. Next up, the approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion to, Councillor Rutherford, you moved the minutes recently. You want to move these minutes?
Yes, I sure would. That the minutes from the following meetings be approved. April 17th, 2023 City Council meeting and April 19th, 2023 City Council non-regular.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any questions, errors, or omissions? Not seeing any. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the votes. That is carried. Next up, protocol items. I have 3 in my hands now. This is exciting. First, I see we are joined by City Hall School, and I believe you must be the grade 2 class from Michael A. Kostick School. Is that right? I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads. So welcome. That is with teacher Dana. Is it Dana Levine or Levine? Dana Levine. So I got the last name right, but not the first one. Thanks, thanks, Miss Levine. And you're over in Ward CP Winniewalk, which is represented by Councillor Sarah Hamilton, who is waving at you now. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to see you. Welcome, everyone. And you're with us the whole week? Today. Last 2 days, so you've been having a fun time and going across the city. I'm seeing some nodding heads that you've been enjoying it. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with us and for joining us in our city council meeting. And we're about to recognize some other wonderful Edmontonians in a couple of other protocol items that I get to read on behalf of the mayor. So with that in mind, I'm going to go, I have to do the right order here. There we go. We're going to do this one first. So this morning, I would like to recognize one of our citizens who has made our city a better place to live. Tony Cashman, who has joined us virtually with his son Paul, is a celebrated historian, storyteller, and playwright. Tony has an uncanny ability to bring the people in his stories to life and to take his audiences on historical adventures. Born in Edmonton on April 29th, 1923, Tony began his career as a journalist, author, and broadcaster. He built a rapport with people on his downtown beat covering City Hall, police, the courts, and civic events. Oh, I'd love to read some of those stories from City Hall coverage. I'm sure we can track them down. But his career took off after he convinced station management that Edmonton's history was full of fascinating, untold stories. This idea became a popular radio series that ran for 10 years with more than 700 episodes. That's the original podcast right there for you. Radio, love that. Tony is considered to be one of Edmonton's most passionate, popular, and impactful local historians. He has been honored with the following: the Edmonton Historical Board Recognition Award, Edmontonian of the Century in 2004, Historical Society of Edmonton Annual Award, having a neighborhood and park in South Edmonton named after him, and a street in the new Blatchford neighborhood, and being inducted into Edmonton's Cultural Hall of Fame and Alberta's Order of Excellence. His legacy extends beyond his own work, through his generosity in helping hundreds of writers and researchers over the years. Tony says that when he was growing up, Edmonton was thought to be too young and unimportant to have history worth recording. But for decades, he has demonstrated there is an audience for Edmonton stories. So Tony will turn 100 on Saturday. On behalf of all of Edmonton City Council, we want to wish you a very happy birthday, and we won't subject you to a song. We'll just wish you a happy birthday on behalf of all of us here. We want to thank you for everything that you have done for this city. And now we have the great pleasure of turning it over to Tony and his son Paul to say a few words. So we have them on the screen somewhere. We're going to pin them on the screen.
Hello.
Hello, we see you. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks very much. On behalf of my father, Tony Cashman, thanks so much to City Council for this honor. To be recognized by the City of Edmonton is especially meaningful because Tony loves this city. After the war and university, my dad could choose where he wanted to make a life. Most of his family headed for California to escape our winters, but not Tony. In Edmonton, he saw here the opportunity to achieve his dream of becoming a writer. Edmonton embraced that ambition. People tuned in to hear him on radio, snapped up his books, and bought tickets to his plays. Tony's personal Edmonton story is a great example of what can be accomplished with curiosity, talent, hard work, and passion. Thank you to Edmonton for this honor and all the support the people of Edmonton have shown Tony over the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and please, everyone, join me in congratulating Tony. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Happy 100th birthday, and I hope you have a wonderful time on your birthday. So I have one more recognition item here, and I'm just going to put this back on because I've been coughing. There we go. So each year, more than 26,000 individuals experiencing houselessness visit Alberta's emergency rooms. Dr. Louis Francischetti, a professor in the School of Public Health, an ER physician with the Royal Alexandra Hospital, noticed patients from the local houseless community that he'd treat would often return soon after discharge, again in need of care. He shared this observation with students during a health advocacy course and watched as their feedback shaped a unique solution. That's how the idea for the Bridge Healing Transitional Accommodation Program was conceived. The program features 12-suite housing complex at the Jasper Place Wellness Center, known as Asamina Kochi, which means to try again in Cree. In 2020, Dr. Francischetti and his team of volunteers were introduced to NAIT business instructor Kevin McGann. Mr. McGann's students developed a marketing plan for Asamina Kochi and an app for use by emergency department staff to book rooms for their patients. Now, Edmontonians experiencing houselessness who are discharged from an emergency department will have the chance to receive immediate housing, along with many of the medical, mental health, and social supports they need to find longer-term stability. The program has already accepted its first tenants and may prove to be a model going forward. Asamina Kochi is the result of a unique community partnership of post-secondary students, volunteers, healthcare and housing staff, government and private donors, coming together to make bridge healing a reality. I'd like to recognize some of the exceptional people who contributed to this program, who are with us today or watching virtually. If I call your name and you're in council chambers, please stand and stay standing until I've called everyone's names. So you get that awkward standing for a little extended period of time. From the J.R. Shaw School of Business, instructor Kevin McGann. NAIT students who created the marketing tools. I wish I had the list of all of your names. Are the NAIT students here? We have some of the NAIT students here. I'm seeing you. There we go. We have Taylor and Murray Soroka, co-founders of Jasper Place Wellness Center. Bob Hugh, Joan McCollum, and Dr. Francischetti. Is there anyone else? There's other people sitting here, and I feel like I need. Who are? Please tell me who you all are. I want to make sure I know we get everyone captured. So I think I called some of the names. Who haven't I called names of? Multiple teams at NAIT. Excellent. Thanks for those online who didn't hear that. We have some multiple teams from NAIT and I wanted to make sure they're all recognized. So I want to thank you all, both online and here in person, for the commitment, compassion, and creativity. And we'll first thank you and congratulate you before we turn it over to Dr. Francischetti, but I want to thank you all for your great work. As someone that represents the ward where these homes are located, it is always incredible to get to pass them. I pass by them quite often, and I see now, again, one of them is ready and starting to serve individuals, and it's so exciting to see that. And I know from the community that they're in Glenwood, the community welcomes those developments with open arms, and I think it really shows how, as a city, and I think it was because of the work that you all did, that there was no hesitation from the community, not for one moment, to say this is what we need in our neighborhood. We need to support all of our neighbors, no matter what they're dealing with. So I just really want to make sure I thank all of you for that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Francischetti to speak. And you may all sit for the rest of this if you want. Dr. Francischetti, thanks for joining us virtually.
Great. Just want to check my mic's okay.
It sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Well, first of all, thanks for this acknowledgement on behalf of everyone that's there and that's working hard to be a little disruptive and change the way we take care of one of our biggest problems facing us today. It's probably little known that Councillor Ashley Salvador has her DNA all over this project as well, because when this crazy idea came up, and she was a community activist, we sought her advice, and she gave us plenty of great advice and has been a great supporter, as has this council. The $290,000 that council gave us last year made a big difference in bringing more partners to the table. We're running at 100% occupancy. The first 12 beds are proving to be exactly what Taylor and Murray thought would happen. And clients are helping each other. It's based on the Eden principle. The next 24 beds are going to be coming on stream mid-June. And then hopefully we can build out the rest of the lots that Jasper Place Wellness has. So on behalf of all the volunteers and on behalf of Alberta Health Services, whose partnership has proven invaluable, they're doing a robust evaluation and we're learning what we don't know. But the goal is to make absolutely sure that no patient ever will be discharged from an Edmonton emergency department into homelessness. This has got the potential to go province-wide and nationwide as well. So I can't thank council enough for the generous support you provided, to Taylor and Murray and Jasper Place Wellness for being the right organization, wanting to disrupt things, and for the city helping us get to this point. The only thing we're going to need is making sure that the next two buildings get their occupancy permits a little quicker than the last building did, but I'm sure that when we cross that bridge, we can get there. So special thanks to Ashley Salvador for her help, and to all of you for acknowledging the hard work that was done to get us to this stage. Have a great meeting. Go Oilers, go.
Thank you so much. One more round of applause for everyone, including Councillor Ashley Salvador. Wonderful. I always love the protocol items. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We are going to move into our regular business. You are all welcome to stay because what we do is riveting, I'd like to think at least. But I won't be offended if you all decide to get up and leave. The students have already decided to get up and leave, so that tells you everything you need to know. But thank you, everyone, for joining us for these protocol items. It's greatly appreciated. Next up, selection of items for debate. I had seen Councillor Cartmell's name, but then it disappeared. Now it's back. Councillor Cartmell.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. Item 7.3 and item 8.1, but for voting purposes only. So I'm not sure if that triggers the 1:30 time specific or not. I'll leave that.
We will see. So if
Others,
there's
yeah.
anyone else, so what I'll do is as we go through the rest of the list, if anyone else wants to actually discuss 8.1, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to treat it as voting purposes only, and we'll do it this morning because I don't think we have to wait till 1:30 if none of those items are selected. Anything else, Councillor Cartmell, or are those the only two? That's it. Thank you. Councillor Rice.
I would like to select 8.5 and 9.14.
8.5 and 9.14.
Yeah, that's it.
And 8.5 is for discussion, correct? Not just for voting?
Yes, some questions.
Perfect, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to, I heard a hand. That's a little different than the virtual name, and it's popping up very soon. I think Councillor Stevenson. There we are.
Thank you. I'd just like to select 9.13.
9.13. Okay. And I don't see anyone else on the board. So with that in mind, I will happily take a motion to approve all remaining items.
So moved.
Councillor Cartmell, and seconded by Councillor Rutherford. Please vote on all the items not selected for debate, please.
So I can see your screen, if you can make that smaller. Can you just make that screen so I can see that? We're just waiting on one more vote. Yeah, just control. Councillor Paquette?
Yes, I mean, yes, it's just not coming through.
Thank you, we've got your vote, we have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. And that is carried, and we can read back the items that have just been passed.
Thank you very much. So just starting over with 7.1, just for clarification, 7.1, Heritage Valley Capital Profile Adjustment has been deleted. 7.2, the Land Development Policy C511, recommended updates has been approved. 7.4, City of Edmonton 2022 Consolidated Financial Statements. Then over into the private reports, item 9.1, Community Services Advisory Board, the 2023 recruitment recommendations have been approved. 9.2, Edmonton Combative Sports Commission 2023 recruitment. 9.4, Edmonton Historical Board 2023 recruitment. 9.5, the Accessibility Advisory Committee 2023 recruitment. 9.6, the Assessment Review Board 2023 recruitment. 9.4, GEF Seniors Housing Board 2023 recruitment. 9.4, Edmonton Salutes Committee 2023 recruitment. 9.9, the Energy Transition Climate Resilience Committee 2023 recruitment. The Subdivision and Development Appeal Board 2023 recruitment. 9.11, the Edmonton Transit Service Advisory Board 2023 recruitment. 9.12, the Edmonton Design Committee 2023 recruitment. And 9.13, the Naming Committee recruitment.
Actually, 9.13 was selected by Councillor Stevenson, sorry.
Oh, okay, my apologies, thank you.
No problem. So just to confirm, because I heard you say the number 9.4 a few times when you were reading that back, but everything from 9.1 to 9.12 has been passed.
Thank you, my apologies, I missed 9.13.
Yeah, no problem. That's all good. Perfect. So next up is request to speak, which there are none. Requests for time specific, which being that no one selected 8.1 for anything other than voting purposes, I don't think we need to make time specific, we can just complete the vote on all of those items now. And were there any other requests for time specific that I missed? Sorry, I should have had my other sheet here. Nope, that was it, just the items 8.1 through 8.4. Therefore, we will now vote on bylaws not selected for debate. So what we'll do is, Councillor Cartmel, do you want to do items 8.2, 3, and 4?
Yep, thank you, Councillor Knack. I'll do that. I'll move first reading of items 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4.
Second.
Seconded. I just heard Councillor Wright in slightly before. Please vote on first reading.
We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. That is carried. Councillor Cartmel.
Thank you. I'll move second reading of items 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Wright. Please vote on second reading.
We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. That is carried. Councillor Cartmel.
Councillor Knack, I'll move consideration of third reading of items 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Wright. Please vote for consideration.
We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. That is carried.
Councillor Knack, I'll move third and final reading of bylaw 20444, bylaw 20445, and bylaw 20446.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Wright. Please vote on third reading of those bylaws.
We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. That is carried. And can I get someone else to move the first reading of item 8.1?
Yes, happy to move item 8.1.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Rutherford. Please vote on first reading.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. That is carried.
I'll move second reading of item 8.1.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Rutherford? Maybe?
Oh, second.
Councillor Tang has seconded. Please vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. We're just sending the vote out now. One moment, please. Sorry, the system's a bit slow. We're just waiting for one more vote.
And we'll finish that, and then we'll have a school to recognize.
We
right
have
away.
all the votes.
Thank you, and please display the vote. That is carried. And before we do the always riveting consideration vote, I would like to welcome Miss McKay's class, grade 6 class, from Garneau School in Ward Papasteo. And your counselor in Ward Papasteo is waving his hand right over there, Counselor Michael Jans. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome, everyone. So it's field trip day, so are you here the whole day or just half a day? Half a day? Excellent. And what else do you have planned today? Oh, okay. Who's going to be the mayor? You're our mayor, and what are you going to be debating, Mayor? Backyard chickens. Wonderful. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for staying with us. Stay as long as you like, and look forward to hearing how your debate goes in about an hour. Thanks, everyone. Next, Councillor Stevenson, can I get a motion for consideration?
Thank you. Yes, I'll move consideration of third reading.
Second.
I think I heard Councillor Tang just before, so I'll take Councillor Tang as the seconder. Please vote on consideration.
We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. Excellent. Does that vote mean we don't have the Friday meeting anymore?
We have just canceled.
We've just canceled the Friday meeting with that vote. Congratulations, everyone. Third reading. We still need third reading because.
Oh, yes. I will move third and final reading of bylaw 20443.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Tang. Please vote on third and final reading.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. Yeah, just for reference, if this particular vote had, the consideration had failed, we have to do it before the end of April, and so we had a hold in our calendar for Friday if somebody had chosen to vote against consideration for third. So thank you for everyone for not requiring that meeting anymore. Wonderful. So that covers 8.1, and we still have 8.5 was selected for discussion. So next up are councillor inquiries. I didn't get any, but I don't know if the mayor did, so, and the clerks did. I see nodding heads. So, Councillor Rutherford's already on the board for inquiries. Go ahead, Councillor Rutherford.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Knack, I did submit it to the mayor and the city clerk,
Works.
but I did not submit it to you. I
No
apologize.
problem. Not a problem at all. Go ahead.
Okay, just 1 second. It is that administration provide a memo outlining existing City of Edmonton bylaws, policies, and practices that support access to safe spaces for sexual and gender diverse individuals and groups, including employees and external community members.
Thank you very much. I'll accept that inquiry. There are no other ones on the board, and I don't think there was notice for any of the other ones, so we can continue on. Next, we are actually going right over to item 7.3, which is the Municipal Development Corporation, which was requisitioned to committee without a recommendation. So first, I will go to the Vice Chair of Executive, which is Councillor Ashley Salvador, for a quick summary, and then I'll go to Councillor Cartmel, who selected it. Councillor Salvador?
Yeah, thanks so much. So Executive Committee had a fairly robust discussion on potential of an MDC. We also heard from a number of speakers who brought some fantastic perspectives to the table. A motion was put forward by Councillor Hamilton and subsequently requisitioned up to Council. So that is where we are at today. I believe there might be slightly adjusted wording and someone who might want to either restate that or not restate, but to move. So I will leave it there. I think Councillor Cartmel is on the board for that.
Thank you for that summary. And yes, so the way it works is that while there was a motion made, that motion doesn't carry through. So we're going to go to Councillor Cartmel, who I think has a slightly different wording of a motion. Please go ahead.
I do, and I've shared the wording of my motion with the clerk.
Perfect. You can start reading it out, and I'm sure it will be put up on the screen.
So my motion is as follows, Councillor Knack, and that is that administration engage a third-party consultant to form a working group to, one, determine the potential mandate, if any, of a municipal development corporation in consideration of Council Policy C511A, and other council city building policies and objectives. And two, pending the outcome of Part 1, to develop a business case for the formation of a municipal development corporation, including startup and operating cost estimates, assuming A, a governing structure with the City of Edmonton as a sole shareholder and as shareholder-appointed board, B, a mandate to develop city-owned land identified in Part 1 and provide an industry-standard financial return to the City of Edmonton, C, an operating environment that does not benefit from preferential lending rates, government guarantees, or property tax assessments, and D, an expectation that, like any other private sector entity, the municipal development corporation will comply with all city plan goals and all zoning and related land development policies and bylaws.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
That was seconded by Councillor Principe, and that, since that was a little bit longer, can that also be put in the chat so that we have a copy? Absolutely. So stay tuned, everyone. We'll have a copy of that in the chat as that is coming. Councillor Cartmel, would you like to take your 2 minutes to introduce?
I would, yes, thank you. So we did have a really good conversation, as Councillor Salvador alluded to, last week at Executive Committee, and my intention is not to repeat all of that conversation and debate. I'm going to try and summarize as best I can what I think we heard, and that was, first of all, that from a private sector perspective, if the city is going to participate in land development, that they would like to see a fair, transparent process and see the city compete in a fair and transparent way, which is to say without any preferential treatment. And I would suggest that that embedded in that is an implication or a supposition that perhaps administration is not doing that in the way that they develop land. And that is not at all what I want to suggest, but I think that there is a question about being seen to be acting transparently, that there is no preferential treatment, that there's no preferential lending, tax treatments, costs spread into other parts of administration, that kind of a thing. And then from an admin perspective, I think that we heard that there's other aspects to this conversation other than just developing a profit margin, that there's city building aspects that are best served by having administration develop land, that the land group generally does return a dividend and does cover its costs, that it doesn't get preferential treatment. So I think that we heard both perspectives, and quite frankly, I'm not sure that we have clarity on either one of those perspectives, that is a fair understanding, or at least that there's clarity on either understanding, that a third party might be able to provide that clarity, provide that objective, dispassionate assessment to see if either perspective is more true than the other. I also think, though, that through the Op 12 lens, we should really consider developing this board and consider have that board consider an MDC development. Op 12 was developed and put forward to harvest savings and efficiencies and redirect those savings and efficiencies to other priorities. This may be an opportunity to harvest those efficiencies, to harvest some savings and redirect those dollars by having a third party do our land development for us. And I think that a third party, and that's why I've left the part 2 in there, is that, if we were to develop an MDC under these circumstances, perhaps apart from the part that speaks to returning a profit, that lends itself to the transparency that the private sector is looking for. So I'll leave it there. There probably is more 3 questions, but I think my 2 minutes is up.
Thank you. Yes, it started a little bit late, so thank you for self-governing on that. So I know the discussion at committee, we had originally suggested that we would try to stay focused on debate, but obviously there is a new motion, and so it is not unreasonable if anyone has questions on the new wording of the motion to go on the board. I don't want to, we have enough capacity based off the items selected not to, but we don't need to necessarily ask questions about the report again, because that was discussed at committee and fully exhausted. So, but I'm not seeing anyone click on the board. Yeah, and we can do speaking to it. I just wanted to make sure that if anyone had any questions on the new wording of the motion, please click on. Councillor Hamilton, I see you're on the board for questions.
Yeah, why not? So something in this motion that I think I think the mandate piece has come out of some of that conversation, correct, Councillor Cartmel?
Yes, thank you. There was maybe to summarize a little bit more on the debate that happened last week, just very quickly, there was some question about maybe we need to develop a mandate first before we suppose that we need an MDC. And so in rewriting the motion, I've tried to bring that to the fore and make this sort of a 2-step process. See if there's a mandate that ought work, and then if there is, proceed with the part 2 of the motion.
And so the way I read this, that the part 2 would not proceed without sort of a check-in or a discussion at council after item or sort of point 1 is complete, or there's like a draft of item 1.
That would be my supposition. That can be amending the motion to address that is friendly to me, sure.
All right, and so maybe I'll now turn to administration. Ms. Padbury, the way that you read this, you would not proceed with developing or any kind of work on item 2 before sort of checking in with council on item 1, correct?
Yeah, that would have been our initial
And
item that we wanted to clarify. We believe there needs to be a check-in
Yeah.
after point 1 in order to go to point 2.
And how long do you think it would take your group to sort of see through item 1?
In terms of timeline to set up a working group and then also come up with a mandate, I could envision that there would be multiple sessions with different stakeholders. If thrown, or if you're looking for a specific number, maybe upwards of 6 months.
Okay. All right. And I guess maybe a procedural thing is to the clerk, would you need a check-in by date, or would it just be that item 1 or point 1 would be completed, it would come back for a check-in, and then point 2, administration would receive the go-ahead for item, or point 2?
So just listening and thinking this through, so the first point, we would actually add a due date under point 1, and to clarify, that according to your bylaw, this would actually come back to executive committee.
Okay.
That would just be to clarify, so it would be to executive committee, and I would ask administration to clarify if they would like us to put, say, a Q4 of this year or a Q1 of next year, if we could get clarification. And then point 2 would go into the system, but it is a contingent on, and so we would just put that as a to be determined, and that might come back to council depending on what happens at executive committee in Q4 of this year, Q1 of next year.
Okay. Maybe if it's friendly to the mover, we should put in that Q1 deadline.
I was going to start with Q4.
Okay.
And presume that if Q4 can't be met, then we would get a report back saying we need more time. But either is friendly. I don't want to pick and split hairs.
I'll say Q4.
Okay.
Although I know this is the finance team, and Q4 is always budget.
I would, it depends when you want to have the conversation. Like, we can aim for Q4. It's a little bit tighter, but it's likely that this is going to land in and around budget discussion, so.
Okay, I'll start with Q4 2023 if anyone wants to.
I'll check to see if that's friendly. I've heard friendly to the mover, friendly to other members of council. Not hearing any objections to that, to provide clarity that point 1 would come back in Q4. Anything else, Councillor Hamilton?
No, those are my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wright.
Thank you very much. I guess to administration, the report referenced in this report, report CR 7122, wasn't that already directing an independent review through Ernst & Young?
So CR 7122, that was one of our land development review reports. So that one, the work that EY did, it was more focused on creating a policy for us. And that was what informed the policy report that was just approved. Okay. So it wasn't really focused on MDC, but it's very similar lines of work. So creating a mandate for an MDC would be very similar to creating a policy, I would think, for our work.
So is this just duplication of the previous work that was done?
I would say that would depend on what council would like to see out of an MDC. So our policy, for instance, is really balanced. It's looking at a balanced approach of financial return, financial sustainability, but also incorporating a lot of city building outcomes like affordable housing, sustainability, those types of things. Whereas not this motion necessarily, but the previous motion was strictly for-profit MDC. So there's I don't know if it would be exactly duplication, because there's a little bit of uncertainty of exactly what we're looking for, and maybe that's what comes out in those in this creation of the mandate. Maybe there's workshops or something that we have with council that could sort that out. So
okay, and the 6-month timeline in that, is that going to take away resources? I mean, we're looking at OP 12, right? And I'm just wondering if financial resources, human resources.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, I think, my team that's primarily leading this kind of work and working with the consultant and whatnot. So, yeah, for sure, we'll be directing resources away from our primary focus of delivering land development projects to this, but we should be able to deliver all of it.
Okay, that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Paquette for questions.
Yeah, sorry. I did not find Q4 to be friendly, but I think it's a bit late for that. I would prefer it was Q1. But anyway, to questions of administration. So there's a resource implication to this motion.
That's correct.
And just what I heard was a little bit disturbing to me. I just want to double check that by focusing on the motion, it will take some attention away from development in the meantime, which also has potentially a financial implication. Yes? No?
Yes, there'll be a financial implication in getting a consultant to help us do this work. And then the time cost of people on the team focusing on this work rather than land development work.
Yeah. Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There might be more questions coming. Just hang on. Councillor Tang?
Great, thank you. Sorry, was there a source identified for the third-party consultant? Would just be out of the land earnings?
Yeah, I think it's going to come out of land enterprise retained earnings.
Okay. And then I guess I'm just, I guess to the point that earlier the mover had mentioned about OP12, can you just elaborate on how that piece of work would intersect with this?
So when it comes to OP12, I think about our policy first and foremost. So the policy that was just approved earlier today and how we are working towards all the priority areas of council in terms of providing housing, providing sustainable developments, aligning with climate action and everything else. So that's where we contribute in that regard under the current policy. When it comes to this work, there will be a financial commitment that's required in terms of both time and then the resources to hire a consultant and get a working group together to actually analyze what a mandate could be for a private MDC. So we could look at how there could be potential benefits associated with that from an OP12 lens as well.
Okay, kind of helpful. And so just so I'm clear, like if, sorry, maybe this question's for the mover then. So something like this would be ultimately, if it comes back and this is the recommendation from administration and MDC, this will ultimately become an ABC, agencies, board, commission, much like we have the others.
Well, and the discussion at exec was essentially the EPCOR model. So,
Right.
and that's kind of what I've tried to, without saying so in so many words, imply in the part two. So, the city is the shareholder, a board-appointed, board-appointed board, shareholder-appointed board, pardon me.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And then, sorry, to the point that, Neil, you were just mentioning around kind of having this balanced approach and, there's a lot going on in the land development space. I guess I'm just wondering, since the conversation happened in 2017, your team has been kind of continuing on the work of, didn't pursue MDC back then. Okay, so then we continue on. And then I guess I'm just curious about sort of ongoing conversation about better ways for the city to exert itself in the space, clarifying roles and responsibilities. If we didn't have this motion, for example, would those conversations happen? Would it happen organically because of your interaction with industry? Would it just simply be off the table completely? I think this is very specific, and even though there's a checkpoint, it's still kind of heading towards this direction of a corporation. Do conversations around land trust come up? And are there other tools? You know, that's.
So I would say without this motion, we probably wouldn't look too deeply into an MDC. But what we do is we are on this continuous cycle of looking at ways we can improve and do new ways of doing business. That's one of the reasons, I can't remember which objective it is in our policy, but there's one in there that speaks to working with private sector more often. And we are already starting to work in that direction. Starting this week, we've started a new project where we're going to try and deliver on that. So we're always looking at new ways to deliver on these projects that can benefit the city the same way some of these MDCs and land trusts provide benefit. There's limitations in what we can do. We aren't quite as nimble. That's just a fact. But that doesn't necessarily, like a lot of the benefits that an MDC can deliver in terms of working with private sector, leveraging financing and stuff, those are all things that we are looking into. And we would continue to look into that. We're always looking at ways to improve.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Principe.
Thank you, Chair Knack. I was just wondering, okay, so for land development, if, let's say in the future, we did have a municipal development corporation, would we still have the same need for land development? I know there would be still a need for land development, but would it decrease the amount of work for land development if an MDC were formed?
So, again, I think that depends on the type of MDC that was created. If there's an MDC that was incorporating city building outcomes the way our policy does, then maybe it could take on all the work. But if it's profit focused, it has a requirement to take on profitable projects, and then it won't be doing the non-profitable work. So that leaves the city with having to deal with those types of projects and finding a funding source with that. So it all depends on the type of MDC that was set up. If it's for profit, there's a lot of land development projects that are not profitable in the city holds. Heritage Valley we're here to talk about today, later on. We have other sites in the city's west end, Potter Greens, for example. Those are not profitable. They cost more money to develop than we will make through revenue, and there's really nothing you can do about that.
Okay.
So for those projects,
so could that be addressed in item number 1? Those concerns, and also item number 2, because from what I read, it is about following city.
Yes.
Yeah. Comply with city plan goals. That's the way I read it anyways, is that all of this would come out with this motion, all of these concerns would be addressed. That's how I see it.
Presumably, yes. Like through part 1 of the motion, it would look at all these things, and I think the consultant would look to find what an appropriate mandate would be, and then that would come back to council for discussion, and then council would decide what they wanted the motion to be, and then that would move forward.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see anyone else on the board for questions. So now we can move into speaking to it. And I know the guidance provided at exec was that, if you spoke to it at exec, you might not need to speak to it. But I also appreciate that there is a restatement of the motion. So I won't hold people to that. But if you did speak, you might not need your entire 5 minutes. But you were welcome to it. Please note that you have that opportunity. So please sign up to speak to this motion. And I will start with Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. And as the person who put that motion on the floor, I had some introductory remarks, but I didn't get to close on it or speak to it. So thank you to Councillor Cartmel for sort of amending the motion and putting it back on the floor based on what was said. This I think originated out of some work that Councillor Cartmel had talked about during budget. I want to reiterate some points that we heard in the questions today, and I thank my colleagues for some very good questions. I heard from administration, from Mr. Ozaduke, that, well, this will take some resources. The work is manageable within the current budget. And as Councillor Carmel pointed out, OP12 is as much about I think finding savings as it is about maximizing, I think, our long-term efficacy as a municipal government. I think it's a really good exercise in figuring out what our core mandate is and what we want to focus on. And with that in mind, I think about clarifying some of the conversation today. And at committee, we heard, for instance, that and I think this goes to Councillor Cartmel's point, that maybe the city is doing the best that we can in this sector, and maybe the private sector could help, but we're getting two sides of a story, and every dog has two tails. I think it would be helpful to get that third-party look at what municipal or what some kind of municipal development corporation could look like, and if it could help us get more, for instance, if it could, if maybe we're taking too much, maybe it can help us streamline the business. So I think that's actually a helpful thing. In the end, I think as a city, we have one metric for how we get revenue. I think land enterprise retained earnings is great and all of our other things, but we have a tax base. And that tax base is based on how much property essentially gets built and leased out or bought in this city. And I think we also have a really noble objective as City Council, and it started over a decade ago with a plan to end homelessness and a plan to build a city in which nobody had to worry about their long-term shelter. And I think that with that in mind, we do have an impetus to look at how we can build more housing faster for all parts of sort of our all parts of our society. If that means that we can generate a revenue on a for-profit side to help with a not-for-profit side to help people who can't afford their own housing, I think that is knitting itself quite neatly into what our objectives as a council are. All of which is to say that, and I posed even more questions here, we won't know if this is viable until we start to get a lens on what a business model might look like with the mandate in mind. And so I think, having seen this debate come back a number of times, I hope council would consider supporting at least further exploration so that we can get clarity to many of these questions. Otherwise, I'm sure that we will see this back again here in 3 or 4 more years, and 3 or 4 more years after that. So I think that this might help us at least answer some of those questions, and I hope council will consider supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next up on the speakers list, and again, I just want to be clear because I think I didn't want to confuse anyone. Anyone is eligible to speak, even if you spoke at committee. I won't hold that against anyone. Please go ahead. Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I wanted to take a few moments to speak to this motion because I'm surprised at myself because I don't plan to support it. An MDC is something I've always been really interested in. I love the idea of the city being even more active in our city building work, and we've seen great success of this model in other jurisdictions. But there's a few reasons why I've come to my decision not to support this motion. One is that learning a bit more about the other MDCs that we're looking at, they're based on models that aren't available to us, specifically using a CRL, or an approach that has left the upfront investment or uneconomical lands with the parent organization, which I don't think serves us well. The second and probably bigger reason is that I can't say with any specificity what I urgently want to see being done differently or better. I have a lot of confidence in the team and the work that's underway. And the new policy changes, I think, are incredibly positive. We are anticipating an increased dividend even in the coming years. I do hear the comments and concerns about greater transparency, and again, I do think that this will be achieved through the annual report. I think that's an excellent opportunity for us to all build our shared knowledge and understanding. And I think my guess is that one of the reasons why this conversation has continued to percolate and pop up every few years is that shared understanding is missing. And these regular touch points, I think, will really help with that. So for me, this isn't the end of the MDC conversation. I think that that's a natural evolution that could happen in time, but it really needs to start with that strong basis of understanding and shared understanding among our many partners. So I look forward for an ongoing discussion, a council-driven evolution of this as we continue to get those annual updates. And in the meantime, really appreciate and support all the work that our teams are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paquette.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Knack. Yeah, I really like the idea of exploring new concepts and ideas and how they would apply to the city of Edmonton. Unfortunately, for many of the same reasons that Councillor Stevenson just articulated, I can't support this motion right now. And also, I mean, just as a point of clarity for myself, I can't support this motion for part 2, which is part 1, which is fine. We can do that. It just doesn't sit well with me personally, and no one else has to deal with that. Just my own sense of balance there. But I also don't support, as I mentioned, the due date. I think that's a little bit too fast, and also lands right in the middle of budget discussions, which can already be fraught as it is. I just don't think that that's very wise timing. I think that this concept should be explored at some point, but again, with the things that Councillor Stevens just iterated, this may not exactly be the time. And, you know, I know that there's going to be different perspectives like, oh, you know, this fits really into OP12. Other people say, well, no, OP12 is supposed to be about council priorities, and we all sort of agreed to it, which, you know, in some ways means that we weren't really going to contemplate spooling up another corporation at this time. But, you know, things change and things are fluid, and I get that. So I'm not really that worried about it. I just personally think that we need to stay focused. There are lots of opportunities. I understand that the argument would be like, well, eventually what this means is, you know, more efficiency for land development in Edmonton. But frankly, I'm just not convinced. I think that our folks do a good job and will continue to do a good job. So that's why I'm not supporting it, even though I really appreciate the fact that it's coming forward. I appreciate the work that's gone into it to this point. But at this point, I think hit pause. You know, let's just get through the budget, which was difficult enough and didn't even get unanimous support. So, you know, other than fiddle with things, I just want to keep going as planned. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Salvador, can you take the chair, please?
I have the chair.
Thank you. Sorry, I am actually trying to click in. There it is. Thank you. So I spoke at committee, so I won't take up my entire time, but I spent most of my time just asking for this debate to come to council as one of the main things, just so that we could have a council vote. So a few thoughts on this. I think this motion, to me, is a request for information, which, generally speaking, are things we've often supported. Because every request for, and I am very aware of the fact that every request for information does require some level of resources. It will require some staff time. It will require some financial resources. But this is a request for information that I think we need to get, because this has come up every term since I've been on council. And I don't think we've ever received anything definitive that says whether we should or shouldn't be doing this. And I mean, I've heard some of the comments today, and I would echo the fact that I think our team does a fantastic job. But could we do better? I actually don't know. And every time we've talked about it, we've said, yeah, maybe we could. It'd be nice to, maybe we should explore it, and then we don't. And so it feels like, you know, for me, I feel like I'm living through the Groundhog Day a bit, because we all sort of talk about it each time it's come up and say, hey, maybe we should explore this. And then we don't. And then it comes back up again. And I appreciate that maybe last time, or the first time, I think, my first term that we looked at this, part of the reason we were a little less willing to go down that path was There wasn't a lot of support from the broader Edmonton community, particularly in the industry. They had a lot of unease about what that might look like. And I think at the time that one was a little bit more direct about, create it versus what this motion says, which is let's bring some folks together, let's have some additional expertise, and let's do some analysis. So again, I don't know if we could be doing a better job in the city of accomplishing our goals within city plan, and I'd like to know. And if the report comes back and says, no, you know what, the amendments you've made have been great, that's going to accomplish the goals that we need, wonderful. Then truly I don't think I need to revisit it again. But until I get that information, I feel like I'm constantly stuck at this point of saying, well, yes, I would like more information, because there have been very few times that I've ever said, no, I don't want more information on something that clearly has interest beyond just one person, right? There are motions in the last 10 years that have been just one person trying to get something through and everyone else saying no. But the fact is, we've had different councillors each of the last 3 terms bring this forward, and I don't see why that would be any different next term, that there would be people who wouldn't want to explore this item. So I would just like to, once and for all, actually get that information so that we can make an informed decision, because right now I don't feel like I can make an informed decision. And so that's why I'll be supporting it. And again, just to maybe help alleviate the other pieces, appreciate the concern around timing. If administration feels they can't bring it back in fourth quarter, they can bring a postponement, right? So if that was the barrier, well, that shouldn't be a barrier, because admin gets that opportunity to decide how quickly they can bring it back. And so that's why I think this request for information, and again, I don't know if I support point 2 yet. I've always liked the idea, truly I've been interested in it, but I actually don't know if point 2 makes sense. So I'd like to get point 1 so that I could then decide whether we should actually go down the path of point 2. So I'll be supporting it. Thank you. And I don't see anyone else on the board, so I can go to Councillor Cartmel to close.
Great, thank you, Councillor Knack. So I'm just going to quickly address some of the comments that came up. Timing, if it's decided later in the fall that this is conflicting with a budget conversation, well then it can be delayed a few weeks or a couple of months. It's not that urgent. And I would note, though, that the supplemental budget adjustments are usually one-day affairs, not 6-week affairs like the one we just went through. So I'm not sure that that's a point on which this should fail. There was reference to this being a duplication of work that was done in the past, and primarily, I think, the consultant report that was presented a few years ago. That was an Ernst & Young report, and no slam against Ernst & Young, but the immediate concern was the vernacular used in that report did not match vernacular used in the land development community, because Ernst & Young is not a land developer. And there was a question about their perspective and their understanding, quite frankly, of that market. So what this motion could suggest today is a consultant to form a working group of technically capable people that are well-versed not only in the delivery of land development services, but the delivery, through different people of work through a municipal development corp and or through a municipal government. I think this comes back to a fundamental question consistently. And before I say this, I want to say that no one comes to work to do a bad job. I know that everybody in the room here is coming here to do their level best and to do their job to the best they can, to deliver the services the best they can. But for me, the question here is, there's 2 of them. One is that, what is it that government should come to and work on every day? And I'm not sure it is things that the private sector can very ably do for people outside of government. I think the government should, first and foremost, that table stakes, that baseline services are those things that the private sector will not do for people and people cannot do for themselves. So one of the things this council has talked about for many years is climate change and ecological responsibility and leadership. We want to migrate resources to looking at things like district energy programs or building retrofits or even simply capital maintenance and renewal, all of which are severely underfunded in our current budget. So if this is something that the private sector can do for us, which allows us to migrate resources to those things that we actually want to do, then we should at least look and see if there is a possibility there. Now, what is that rooted in? And that's the second thing, and that is that as much as our very capable and able employees are saying that these things are not profitable, it is, quote unquote, the government saying that it cannot be profitably done. And the private sector comes back repeatedly and says, well, give us a chance to look at that and see what we could do, see what our perspective is. So we've heard that exhibition lands cannot be done profitably. Well, what does the private sector say? If they had that opportunity, how would they evaluate that? And part of the question on exhibition lands, just as an example, is the demolition of the Coliseum. So should that be part of the conversation around land development? My understanding is, with the University of Alberta Property Trust, demolition was completed before land was transferred to a property trust. But that's my understanding. Others have expressed their understanding of what Calgary does, or who gets a CRL and who doesn't, or what land has been sanitized. Let's get somebody objective, external, third party, away from all of it, to actually tell us what the different options are, what the different parameters are, what the different elements of different MDCs have been and would be for that consideration, before we presume to already know those answers. This is the perpetual problem here, is that there's a private sector perspective from people that are experts in the world of land development, and people within the government, which with all due respect are trying to be experts in everything and not just one thing. And I think we should get a working body to pull all of that perspective into one place and tell us what the options would be, what the pros and cons would be of developing a corporation to take this out of the city departments and do it and deliver it independently for the city of Edmonton. There's been questions raised whether or not a shareholder perspective would be any more transparent than a city council perspective. And I use EPCOR as the example. EPCOR comes to utility, and I would argue quite loudly that there is far more rigor about what EPCOR presents in the way of rate filings and business cases and justification for dollars spent, along with a utility advisor, that creates far more vigor around those decisions than the decisions that come to the council table at budget. So using that EPCOR model as a model, we get a lot more transparency and we get a lot more rigor around those financial questions, just as an example. So I think there's a real opportunity here, and I think we should at least examine it. Thank you.
Thank you. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the votes. And that is defeated. So next item is going to be item 8.5, bylaw 20427, closure of vehicular access to titled parcel for Capital Line South Extension. So we'll take a moment and let the teams switch out there. Are there any opening comments, Mr. Lockman?
No, pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Then I will go right to questions. Councillor Rice had selected it. So Councillor Rice, please go ahead with your questions.
Thank you, Chair Lack. I do have some questions I heard from my constituents. Just want to get some clarification and regarding this bylaw. Specific. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, now we can. You cut out for about 1 second, but you're back in, so we can hear you.
Oh, okay, that's great. So the first question right now, and because on that specific site, 906 111th Street, and there are two access entrance. So right now we're going to close the entrance on 111th Street. Just want to get a very clear clarification on that.
Yes, just the access on 111th Street.
Okay, so into that entrance, that access be closed for vehicles. That means the only entrance access is on 9th Ave.
The access off of 9th Avenue, correct?
So for 9th Avenue, and then the question is, in the report, and we stated that we send the notice and to surrounding homeowners. Just wondering, like, how many notice we send out to the neighborhood and surrounding that area actually will be impacted by this closing.
Look to the team to see if they have that information or if it's relevant.
Councillor Rice, Bruce Ferguson here. I don't believe that we've sent specific notices out to the neighborhood because this access closure affects a specific property, and we've been working with and trying to work with the owner of that property.
Okay, so that means the only property, the property owners is the only one receive the notice, and no other neighbors receive this notice.
I would have to confirm that for you, Councillor Rice, and I'll do that as quick as I can here. I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you for the confirmation, and because that is what I heard the people ask, they didn't receive this. The reason for them to bring this up, because the access on 9th Avenue and is really close to 111th Street, and then that intersection, and before the neighborhood requested the left turn on 9th Avenue. Without that left turn and with another access closed, only access on 9th Avenue, and the safety concern right now brought up, and specific for the traffic, and is there any plan and city has to address that safety concern? And then in terms of combination of turn left from Handy and to 111th Street on 9th Avenue, and also combination with this access only on 9th Avenue to this site.
So Councillor Rice, two things. First, I can confirm that the tenant on the property also received the notice of the closure, so both the tenant and the landowner. On access from 9th Avenue, so going south, or correction, going northbound on 111th Street, there will be a left turn lane that will go into 9th Avenue, so that will help control that traffic. Okay. And at this point in time, we haven't identified or heard of a safety concern accessing this property from either direction on 9th Avenue.
And then the safety concern and is always there, and then specific with the closure of this access on 111th Street, the traffic increase and become more on 9th Ave. So I heard you say that the plan is to install that left turn. And do you have specific timeline when that be finished?
No, we don't. We don't have a timeline right now on that. We are looking into it though.
So you're looking into it, so there's no timeline.
Just to be clear, there's an existing left turn off of 111th Street onto 9th Avenue.
There is no existing left turn single, and for that is a neighborhood request over and over as labor get it.
So the existing configuration on 111th Street, and just trying to be clear, is that there is a left turn onto 9th Avenue.
There is no left turn to 9th Avenue.
And just trying to understand, is it a dedicated left turn signal or a left turn bay? Because there's an existing left turn bay.
Yeah, there's a left turn bay, but there will be a signal added as a part of the project.
What we'll do, it sounds like there might be more questions. We can move, if somebody's willing to move a second round.
Oh, that's okay. That's all my questions.
Are you good? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions on the board, so this would be an appropriate time if somebody wanted to move first reading.
I can move it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Rice, for moving first reading of bylaw 20427. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Principe. Anyone wishing to speak to it?
I would like to speak.
Please go ahead, Councillor Rice.
Just really quick, the concern and what I heard from neighborhoods, and is very clear. Based on those concerns, there is no problem for closure of the vehicle access to this specific site on 111th Street, but they do have the concern and for the safety and for the traffic impact on Lance Avenue. But I heard clearly and from city administration, we're planning to install that left turning and signal on that specific intersection. I think this will address the concern our neighborhoods and our the residents who have this type of safety concern and who have put the request and in the past few years requested that left turn. So what I hope is with this project going on with the closure of the vehicle access, and we hope this traffic signal and turn left, Lance Avenue will be installed as soon as possible. That will address the safety concern and the traffic impact and from this project. And so I'm going to end up there and I will support this bylaw.
Thank you very much. Please vote on first reading.
We're just waiting for one more vote.
I'm a yes.
Yep, thank you. We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. That is carried. Councillor Rice, second reading.
Yeah, I move the bylaw and 0427 for second reading.
Thank you. I'll take a seconder.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Principe, I think I heard. So next, please vote.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. That is carried. Councillor Rice.
Yeah, move the consideration of the third reading.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Principe, for seconding. Please vote on consideration.
I'm a yes.
We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. That is carried. Councillor Rice.
I move that bylaw 20427 and for the final reading of third reading.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Principe. Please vote on third and final reading.
I'm a yes.
Just give us a second. I think our system is a bit of a break.
Having a little break.
We're just going to try to.
Just hang on, everyone. We'll just resetting it, so no need to yell out votes yet. We'll just wait for the system to be reset.
Can you just let MJ reset? We've lost access
want
to
5
all of our
minutes?
systems, so just 2 ticks, please.
2 minutes? 2-minute recess, everyone? Don't go too far. Oh. It might even already.
Could we just do a verbal?
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Could you? Just do
Absolutely.
old-
Do you
old
want me to
school?
like call it out, or
Yeah,
you
like
want to
old
just?
school.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
please.
Get ready, everyone. So, good old-fashioned verbal. I don't even think I used to do verbal. So, Councillor Wright.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Councillor Principe.
Yes.
Councillor Stevenson.
I'm a yes.
Councillor Paquette.
Chair Knack, we did do verbals at the beginning of the pandemic. I'm a yes.
That's true. That's a good point. Councillor Tang.
Yes.
Mayor Sohi is still away. Councillor Hamilton.
Yes.
Councillor Rutherford.
Yep.
Councillor Salvador.
Yes.
Councillor Cartmel.
Yes.
Councillor Rice.
Yes.
Councillor Jans.
Yes.
Thank you. Those are the votes, and that is carried unanimously. Awesome. That's third reading. So we have 2 items left. Both are in private. Before, I might just do a quick call now instead of waiting to come back for notices of motion or motions without customary notice. I'll do a call right now, if anyone has that. And Councillor Rice, are you remaining on the board from? Yeah, thank you. Perfect. I don't see anyone else, or I've lost the. If you have a notice of motion or a motion without customary notice, just yell at me right now because the screen is gone. Okay, I'm not seeing or hearing any. Therefore, I can take a motion now to go in. Oh, hold on, Councillor Rutherford.
I don't know the wording, that's why I didn't go, but I think there is a notice of motion or motion without customary notice. One for the FEMCO and
Oh,
one
yes.
for
Yeah,
WAVE.
yeah, so just because we're having some technical difficulties, if it wouldn't mind, we're just gonna log out of the system as you go into camera. If we could do that, thank you, Councillor Rutherford. We've printed out a copy of that for the chair or the acting deputy mayor, and we'll deal with that perhaps when we come back.
Excellent. Well, then we'll wait on notices of motion until after that, and I will find that, and that'll give me time. So I'll just take a motion now to go into private, and then we can deal with that separately.
So moved.
Yeah, second.
Moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Hamilton to go into private, subject to sections 16, 17, 24, and 25 of FOIP. Please vote. Oh, looks like we might be good on the screen.
There we go.
Try your e-scribe.
eScribe is working, we just can't display the voter, or the speakers list, or the vote. We're just waiting for one more vote count. There we go. We've got all the votes, and I'll call it out, because I don't think I can display.
Okay.
That carried 12-0.
That carried 12-0. Great. We're going to take about 5 minutes here as we clear the room, and that will give the clerks a chance to sort everything out. So we will reconvene at 11:02, dealing with Everything opened up and finish everything before noon.
Just the revised wording for 9:13, I've just put in the chat. Just, we had to do some creative motioning just to make sure, just to maintain privacy, which I think we've done.
No, so what will be, there will just be reappointments in that.
Yeah, so just the new attachment 3, 100%, but I'm not using that.
Doors are unlocked, we're ready to go. So we have a few motions coming out of private. I'll go to Councillor Stevenson on item 9.13 to make a motion.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. I'll move that attachment 3 be added to the April 19th, 2023 Urban Planning Committee non-regular report naming committee NC 2023 recruitment. That the individuals listed in attachment 3 of the April 19th, 2023 Urban Planning Committee non-regular report naming committee 2023 recruitment be approved to the naming committee for the term of May 1st, 2023 to April 30th, 2024. The April 19th, 2023 Urban Planning Committee non-regular report naming committee NC 2023 recruitment and revised attachment 2 or 3?
2 stays in private subject to 17 and 24. 3 gets public after 29.
3 is next. Okay. Attachment 2 remain private pursuant to section 17 and 24 of the Freedom of Information and Protection Agency Act, and that attachment 3 of the April 19th, 2023 Urban Planning Committee non-regular report naming committee NC 2023 recruitment remain private pursuant to section 29 of the Freedom of Information and Protection and Privacy Act.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Tang. Please vote.
We're just sending the vote out now. We're just waiting for one vote. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. That is carried. Next up, item 9.14. I'm going to go to Councillor Rice for that. Councillor Rice?
Yes. So I move that the capital profile 19-16 and -5055 Heritage Valley Line development be increased by $13.2 million to fund the construction of servicing infrastructure for Heritage Valley Town Center with funding from line enterprise returned earnings. I move that the April 25, 2023 Financial and Corporate Services Report, FCS 01868, remain private pursuant to section 16 and 25.
And 24, I think, as well.
24, advice from officials, and 25. So I'm reading the reporting and a little bit wording change on screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Wright. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. That is carried. And before we wrap up, I'm going to go to Councillor Stevenson to make a motion to allow Councillor Tang to make a motion without customary notice. So, Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. I'll move that City Council waive the rules on providing notice of motion as set out in Section 32 of Bylaw 18155, Council Procedure Bylaw, to allow Councillor Tang to make a motion without notice regarding council member appointments to agencies.
Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Wright. Please vote to allow Councillor Tang to be able to make that motion without customary notice. So the
Just waiting for one more vote. We have all the votes.
Thank you. Please display the vote. That is carried. Councillor Tang?
Yes, I like to move that an exemption to Section 9C of Council Policy Procedure C575D, agencies, boards, committees, and commissions be granted to allow the shareholder to approve a resolution extending the reappointment of Councillor Tim Cartmel to the Fort Edmonton Management Company Board of Directors for 1 year until the annual general meeting in 2024, and that Councillor Aaron Rutherford and Councillor Joanne Wright be appointed as the council advisors to the Women's Advocacy Voice of Edmonton for the remainder of the term to the organizational meeting in 2023, and that Councillor Jennifer Rice's appointment as a council advisor end on April 25th, 2023.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Paquette. Any questions? Not seeing anyone on the board. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
And please display the vote. That is carried. Are there any other notices of motion or motions without customary notice?
I move that we adjourn.
No. We're going to stay here forever. I do not accept it. No, we are adjourned at 11:57. Thanks, everyone.